Thank you for making it to the 4th edition of Thai Women Entrepreneurship Program. This is our 4th edition where we have a guest, an inspiring entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, Meenu Bajra. Meenu is into a very interesting domain. She is helping women from the underdeveloped sector to come, stand on their feet, become entrepreneurs as drivers. So develop an entrepreneurial thinking. So I won't go into much. I welcome Shanti Vinod, who's going to be the moderator of the event. Shanti, you all the best from Meenu.
Yes.
Shanti is advertising, baron from Mumbai.
I wish.
Well, you are actually. You're being humble.
I wish.
Thank you and welcome. We start the program.
Okay, I just thought maybe we can start it in a little different way today. What do you all think? If I can just individually go through and see what is your idea of empowering women? If we can just start. Okay, let's start with you since you're one of the two women here. If you talk about empowerment of women, what is it that comes to your head? Just otherwise anybody, I mean whoever, it's like.
You're asking me especially empowerment, what I can do, or what
no,
is women
as
empowerment?
in generally, if there's anybody who's just talking and saying, okay, no, women need to be empowered. What does that mean to you?
We start from home, because again from home, my spouse or my family, my mother, my sister.
But what kind of empowerment do you mean?
I believe in it as independence, so they should know what yes, they should earn independently, and they should build their own activity instead of wife of everybody should know that they have a separate identity.
That's very good. I wish you had more. Exactly. Haji, please.
I think freedom of choice to work, being treated well, and respected.
It's about the independence that we want about. Like they should be financially as well as otherwise independent on themselves. So they don't have to depend on them.
Correct. And as a woman, I'd definitely like to hear you.
I think, of course, one thing they're saying, which I agree with, is women independence in all forms, not necessarily financially, but even otherwise. The second thing, which I think is very important, is basically to be treated equally. We can start from whether it's an opinion that you share home, or to an opinion that you share when you're working outside in a market, to a voice that you raise socially. So everywhere, I think that will matter as a woman and empowerment.
I think providing exposure to opportunities and basically giving them options to decide for themselves.
I think it's allowing them to dream, because most women are more focused in like either doing the home chores or just settling in their career or taking care of kids. They rarely find time to dream. Like, even if you see that in most people are men, even it's for women. So, what I feel that women should be allowed more to dream. Even we cannot say allow. We should in fact empower them to dream that you can do that. For example, in this century, I feel that the women empowerment from last so many centuries has taken a very dramatic shift. If you look at the history, and especially now, nowadays, when they have to make up for so many centuries, then their mind, the mindset of the society has not changed. It is still made dominated society. I think we can allow women to dream more and be more creative in terms of that they can run organizations.
Okay, so one underlying thing which I see of all the opinions I've heard so far is that women should be independent. But I find nobody has mentioned that if you're a housewife, you can still be empowered as a woman. It doesn't have to be that you have to be financially independent to be empowered. There are a lot of different types of empowerment. And I think one is she'll definitely show you and will make you understand clearly how financial independence helps. But if you speak to Meenu, you will also find that many of these women who have come into this line have been abused or battered back at home. So how do we balance the two? And now I'll hand it over to Meenu so she can explain that further.
But here I would like to just add that financial independence is really important to have your own identity within the family and the society. So that helps actually.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take it up further.
Now I was just thinking, since we are a small group, it would be very nice to know who I am talking to as well.
So if you can, just give them.
Sure. I am Harshvi. I work with a small IT company. We develop, we deal with clients in their web applications and mobile applications in USA, Canada and Australia. I am currently the Secretary TIE Chandigarh chapter.
Oh, okay.
I am Nisha Keth and I have recently pursued my MBA.
Myself Vinay, we have a product named Archini.
I'll just give a brief introduction to myself and then I'll just talk about what we are doing and then we can hopefully have a discussion. So I'm Meenu Vadera and I'm based in Delhi. And I worked, I studied management as well and I've worked, but I started my work and I've spent my entire working career in the NGO sector, so to say, development sector. I worked in different parts of India and also internationally. And in 2003 is when I came back. I was working in Africa, then I came back to India. And I think in 2001 there was a census report which had come out, which kind of led, which was a trigger to the work that I am doing right now. So that's why I'm sharing it. And the census report, I think perhaps all of you would be familiar with it, brought out in a big way in the public domain the whole issue of female feticide. And Delhi was amongst the red states, and of course Punjab and Haryana as well. But me being a citizen of Delhi, and normally you don't think, because you feel you're in a capital and there has a certain, you tend to confuse growth and development. I mean, of course in the development sector we keep having debates about it, that economic growth is not the same as social development. But to many of us it kind of, it was in our face, and not just Delhi, but South Delhi, which is supposed to be the most posh area, was amongst the worst ratios in terms of, I think everybody knows what I'm talking about, should I,
I don't know what ratio you're talking about.
Okay, so this is a female feticide ratio, so biologically in the world, and in most of the developed world, there are 1,000 men to 1,000 women, or in fact 1,000 men for every 1,010 women. The ratios of women in the population, females, is more than the males, except in the South Asia, and particularly, and particularly in India. And in India, the overall ratio is, this was brought out by Amartya Sen, the famous economist, the first time. The overall ratio is somewhere around 800 something per every 1,000 men. And in Delhi, Punjab and Haryana, the ratio was the lowest. So what it meant was that when women get pregnant, they go for a sex determination test and they actually kill the fetus because it's a female. So the reason I'm bringing it up here is that and given the fact that this was happening in Delhi, and one of the factors was of course that people were more economically prosperous, they could go for those ultrasounds and scans, but end up taking decisions which were very harmful to the society. So that was, one of the triggers why, after having worked in very many parts of the country and internationally, one thought that, but what about my own citizenship and my own place, which is Delhi? And looked at, so what kind of options are available? And since my expertise and my experience lies in working on women's rights issues within the development sector. And so we were looking at the whole issue of women and livelihoods, and we wanted to work on, the goal or the mission, so to say, is providing livelihoods with dignity to resource poor women. And the experience also says that it is not possible, NGOs have generally not been very successful in doing it. So, the thought came that why not have a hybrid model? So you have an NGO which does the training and the mobilization, and you also set up a company which provides employment so that it can be done in a financially sustainable manner. So when we started looking around at what livelihoods to look at, we also figured that, even till now, in the majority domain, when we talk about women and livelihoods, and particularly poor women and livelihoods, the kind of livelihood trainings that are available to women and in various polytechnics or vocational training institutes are still very much in their traditional realm. So, beautician, tailoring, cooking, embroidery, and what stretched, if we stretch it, so it now comes to computer training. But none of them provide any significant returns. Most of them do not entail too much of movement away from their homes, so they're still very much, the mobility is still very much restricted, and they don't really end up in making any significant change in their lives. It's just like chai pani ke liye kharcha extra ho jata hai. So we were looking at a livelihood which, one, breaks the gender stereotypes. So we look at, we open the boundaries and we come up with new livelihood options so that, sort of say, break the glass ceiling. We were also looking at livelihoods which could be remunerated and, provide significant economic returns to the women. At the same time, which are also, where they can be part of a professional economy, where there can be dignity and respect and all of it. So one of the livelihoods that we did think about was around the area of driving. And, so the idea was that we would work with resource poor women and train them as professional chauffeurs. And if you look at the other side, Delhi being the kind of unsafe space place for women mostly, we felt that there was a big market for it. There was a need for having safe transport options for women in Delhi. So the idea was to bring the two together. We train poor women, it provides meets their economic needs. At the same time, by becoming professional chauffeurs and running transport, they provide safe travel options to the other women. So that's how this whole idea began, which is called Women on Wheels. We set up an NGO called Azad Foundation in 2008, because when we started, there wasn't we didn't know any commercial professional woman driver in the NCR, except one, which everybody talked about. So one can sort of, understand what kind of context it was. And so we had to, we still have a very large program, outreach and mobilization program, where we work in the slums and resettlement colonies. Primarily, our work revolves around reaching out to young women and, making them aware of the various kinds of economic opportunities, particularly the one around driving. Like somebody was asking me in the morning before, is it difficult to convince women? No, it's not difficult to convince women. It is very much more difficult to convince their families. And women, I must say, have not grown up thinking that they would ever become drivers. So it does take a while, before they can come round to the idea. But a lot of them do find it very exciting, the idea of being able to drive a car. But when it comes to the family, then there is a lot more effort and a lot more counseling, a lot more convincing, a lot more work that needs to be put into place. So Azad Foundation, which is the NGO, does that work. It tries to convince the family, it tries to build an environment which is more conducive for the women to come and register for such a course. And then we have a very comprehensive learning journey, a learning program for the women who come into the institute. Now, our belief is also that women, when they are financially empowered and also socially empowered, they do become change agents. I mean, this is something that I've seen all my life. across cultures, across society. It has been documented about. It is a fact that when they are, not just when they are earning, but when they are earning and they are also empowered socially, they become change agents. The choices they make about themselves, the choices they make about their children, the choices they make about their families, they change significantly. So the idea is, the training program that we have designed is also designed with this view that we would like women, we want them to become agents of change in their families. So as a result, there is only one part of the training program focuses on the skill part, which is the driving related part. And for that, we have a tie-up with Marvati, for example, Driving Training Institute. We also have our own in-house faculty and training vehicles, etc. And they get a lot of training on vehicle maintenance, repairing flat tires, handling, small emergency roads,